Hey guys, what's growing? It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm, and we have a change of plans today. So I said yesterday that we were going to be putting some new plants in the cottage garden and changing out some containers, but we had something exciting going on this morning, and so it's changed the plans for the whole day.
The wind's in my hair.
So I mentioned in last video that one of my beehives was lacking a queen. So this morning, my mentor and I went to the farm and got the nuke that I had out there. That was from one of the swarms that we caught, which actually had one of my queens in it, and brought it back here. And what we did was we changed out the queenless hive by taking out all the frames and shaking them all out of the bees onto the ground in front of the hive, and there's a reason for that, and then installing the frames from the nuke with the queen and her workers and all that stuff into those boxes. Then we replaced as many frames as we could with as many resources as we could into the hive. And what will happen is, for all the bees that we shook out, the ones that are really old and at the end of their lives will just kind of crawl off and die. But the other ones will come back to the hive because that's their home. And then they will smell the queen's pheromone, and they'll smell brood, and they'll just kind of integrate into that colony. So that's what's happening now. But because we had more frames coming out than going in, we had extra frames. So what we did was we put in all the frames that we could that had capped brood, as well as lots of honey stores for them, because that will help them through the winter. Now they have tons of honey, they have a laying queen, they have lots of capped brood on the new frames that went in, and then we had extra frames. And so I have them here, and we're gonna extract honey. This is a surprise. I didn't think this was going to be possible this year. So I'm not using an extractor because I don't have access to one right now. We're just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. So come along with me and do this. This is my first time ever doing it. I'm sure I'm going to make some mistakes, but it's honey. It's all going to be good. Okay, so in this tub are the frames of honey. There are 5 of them. There are no bees left. I made sure all the bees were gone. And so some of these are capped and some are not. The ones that are not capped are going to have a higher water content, so those are the ones we're going to need to use first. That honey is going to be needed to use first. Now, one thing is going to be a little tricky. These frames don't have a whole lot of honey. What's honey is here and around the side. The rest of this is capped dead brood, hopefully dead. So that is not going to get scraped off. So I'm going to have to be real careful. Scrape off this. This is capped honey here. So this covering here, we scrape that off, and then the honey will pour out. Not necessarily pour. It's not that warm in here. This is better done at about 80 degrees because the honey will run more smoothly, but it is what it is. So on these frames, they're super heavy because they do have honey in them. We'll take out what we can, but then the rest of this I'm not going to scrape off because we wouldn't want that in our honey. So I have a couple frames like that, but then I also have frames like this. Oh, so heavy. And that is capped honey, and also honey that's not capped yet. So the tools that I have, oh, and also that's comb, so I can pull off some of that comb and put it in its own jars and let it do its thing as well. So the tools that I have here I have a stainless steel pot, and this pot actually comes with its own sieve. So I'm going to use this sieve plus some muslin to help catch the wax and stuff like that, and in little bits and bobs. And then I have another bowl over here with another strainer, and I'll do the same thing. And then a third bowl if I need it. So I'm gonna set you guys up and you can watch, because I need both hands, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I am still going to do the crush and strain method, so I'm gonna use my potato masher and crush all this up. Same thing with this one. Crush it all up so that the honey really starts to move through, because this is very finely woven. And then it's gonna take probably 24 to 48 hours for it to all strain out. Then I'll have wax and honey. Okay, so cleanup of the frames. So these frames still have a lot of stuff on them, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna take them out to the backyard, far enough away from the main hives, and place them out so that other bees and other insects can come and get the honey. If you put these still with honey and pollen and everything left on them too close to your hives, your main hives, then bees from other areas will come, and then you can get robbing of your own hives from foreign bees. So you don't want that. So we're gonna place these out in the backyard, and the birds, the squirrels, the other bees, ants, everybody's gonna have a good old time. And actually, after about a week or so, these frames will be much cleaned off just from the work of the animals. So you just saw me make some gluten-free zucchini bread. It's pretty good, but I can really taste the baking soda in there, which I don't like. So I don't know if I would recommend that particular recipe. Also, the dough was way drier than I thought it was going to be. However, even though I strained the zucchini, it came out nice and moist. So I guess they knew what they were doing. Anyway, let's check on the process of the honey extraction. So in this pot, you can see that that is almost completely dried out. There's a little bit left in there. And then down here, we have lots of honey. It's a beautiful color. And then in this pot, this still has a ways to go. This was the most fresh comb. There was the most honey in this. So I keep coming in and mashing. I mean, it's definitely draining. You can see the cheesecloth right underneath there. And we definitely have honey down below, but it needs some more time. I'm gonna give this one at least 24 hours to drain. Now, this is not going to go to waste. This does not go into the garbage. There is still some honey in here, but what's gonna happen is I am going to render these wax cappings, as well as all of this, once it's drained, down into beeswax. And we're also going to use the wax off of the frames that we put outside to let the bees clean off. So let's go check on those now. So surprisingly, there's nobody on these. I really thought that they would be covered with insects, even ants at least. There's a few ants, but you can still see that there's honey shimmering there. Now these frames are, other than honey, are fairly clean of wax. I will scrape off with my hive tool what's up here and this burr comb and stuff. This, I will scrape all of that off because yes, even though there's lots of brood, dead brood in there, that's also lots of wax. So all of that will get scraped off. Same thing with this and all the burr comb and the back sides. So basically I'll scrape off everything that's left on these frames after the next couple of days because I do want all of this honey and stuff to get eaten by wildlife. And then we will render it down in a couple videos from now to beeswax that we can use. It'll have to go through a couple filtration processes to clean out all the junk, all the gunk, and then it should look beautiful. Oh, sweet, sweet baby girl. Yeah, so sweet baby girl. So clearly today is going to be, for the most part, a kitchen day. We'll be back in the garden tomorrow, so hopefully you're not out of sorts about that. The next project that I have to work on is sourdough crackers, because I want to use some of my sourdough discard before I feed it again. And then I need to, tomorrow morning, get up and make the dough for sourdough buns, basically like hamburger buns, because we're going to use them for pulled pork sandwiches the next day. So the thing about sourdough is a lot of times you have to bake things, you need like 24 hours because it needs a lot of rise time. But as long as you plan in advance, then you're good. So let's get started on these sourdough crackers. This is a King Arthur flour recipe, so I trust it pretty well. It's going to use whole wheat flour for these crackers, and I've never made them before. Hopefully I won't screw them up, but I think they're going to be yummy. Okay, so that's got to chill for 30 minutes. Then we're going to roll it out, cut the crackers, and bake them. Now, the nice thing was that used quite a bit of my starter, and I have a little bit left, which is great. So what I'm gonna do is tonight, I'm gonna make flatbreads to go with our dinner, which is a Greek salad with chicken and beets and stuff like that. So I'll make a flatbread that uses 3/4 of a cup of the discard, and then I'll feed it, and it can sit on the counter overnight, and then in the morning, it will be ready for me to make dough for the sourdough rolls for the next day. So it's all about timing. All right, so when those are ready to come out and ready to be rolled, I'll join you again. So the fam says, while not very crispy, they are very tasty. So next time, I mean, they're kind of crispy, but not like you want crackers to be. Next time, I'm just going to leave them in longer. Final check-in on this batch of honey. It is, you know, still leaking out, but it's definitely a lot less than it was. I did strain, as you saw, the other honey, and I got a big jar plus my little honey dipper jar. This pot had more in it, a lot more, like by twice, than the first pot did. So I will be interested to see tomorrow morning how much we can strain out of here. And then, like I said, this stuff and the other wax on the frames outside will get rendered into beeswax. Okay, so it's the end of the day. It was a very busy day, a very full day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know it was very different from our normal garden content, but you know, you have to process the things that you harvest and the things that your animals make for you. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Tomorrow we'll be back in the garden and planting up some containers and putting in some new plants in the cottage garden. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.